Hi everyone, and welcome back to Open Your Eyes to the Universe. I'm Gabrielle Martin. We began Youniverse in April this year, and a warm welcome to those of you who've been traveling with us since then. And if you're joining for the first time, that's great. Thanks for coming along. So Open Your Eyes to the Universe is a series of contemporary talks, conversations, open-eyed meditations, and interviews with people who inspire and uplift others by sharing their wisdom, their insights and experiences. Now, last month, we were speaking with Gayatri Narayan, a spiritual educator, a writer, and a speaker dedicated to exploring the spiritual phenomenon of transformation at both the individual and the global levels. But tonight, we're going to be exploring a new topic, the art of internal balancing, with our special guest, Denise Lawrence. Denise is a highly accomplished meditation teacher. She's a spiritual author, a broadcaster, and has been an international speaker on Raj Yoga meditation and related subjects over many decades. She travels widely, conducting retreats, seminars, and conferences, but of course, within the COVID context, much of her sharing is conducted via her online presence. And you might like to check out her blog site, her YouTube channel, and her SoundCloud, and we'll put that in the chat box for you. Now look, when I asked Denise for her biodata to share with you, she sent me about 2 or 3 sentences and about 3 key words. She described herself as an author, a broadcaster, and a teacher of Raj Yoga meditation since 1974. And even for those of us who love being essenceful, I just thought that was way too brief. So I asked her to expand on it, and she did. She gave me another noun, pioneer. And all of this is true. She's an exceptional pioneer. But actually, her story is much, much bigger than that. So I'm going to take the liberty of sharing some of it with you. Denise is, she's just like naturally creative, and she's got a very keen ability to translate metaphysical concepts into practical understandings and solutions to daily challenges in these postmodern and post-humanist times. And where did this all begin? Well, at some time in 1974, Denise rode the underground to an out-of-the-way suburb in London to learn how to meditate. She was 24, a bit of a hippie, and perhaps a bit disillusioned with her work with the BBC and the Canadian Broadcasting Association, where she was making short news films. Knocking on the door of a small flat in Tennyson Road, Denise met Hindi-speaking Dadi Janki, the co-administrative head of the Brahma Kumaris. In many ways, they were friends from way, way back. And this meeting marked Denise as the first Westerner to engage fully with the Brahma Kumaris. Now, her creativity, her intellectual agility, her ability to foresee, and her compassionate heart provided her with the capability to decode and unpack Eastern-centric spiritual philosophy. She divined and distilled the actual process of meditation and the body of spiritual knowledge that allows a practitioner, any one of us, to move deeply into a meditative state. And she made it available to thousands of people around the world in different cultural contexts. Denise created the first meditation commentaries. And I appreciate that that's something that most of us take for granted these days and regard as an essential tool to learn the process of turning within, connecting with your original self, and connecting to the divine, whomever you perceive that one to be. But, you know, we were back there in the 1970s, and Denise spoke a meditation commentary over background music and recorded it on the then state-of-the-art tape cassette playable on an avant-garde Sony Walkman. It was actually revolutionary within the meditating world because it assisted people to actually experience meditation and not just understand the meditation process. One of her first commentaries she created is actually about soul consciousness, and we'll be meditating to that tonight. Denise has always had a keen sense of what is going on in our world and what people need to face the challenges. So not surprisingly, these commentaries were soon followed by her Think About It and Think About It More series. And these were meditations for people experiencing addiction, which she made with Joan Derry in the 1980s. And a number of other meditation commentaries followed, including Dancing in Inner Space. These meditations guide us through times when our inner world is far from balanced. And tonight, Denise joins us to touch on the topic of internal balancing. Now, viewers, as always, we welcome your questions, and thanks to those of you who've sent them in already. If you're inspired during her talk to write a question, please pop it in the chat box and we'll do our best to get it answered during the Q&A. Well, Denise, I know it's morning tea time for you in Munich, Germany, and it's probably time for you to have a cup of tea. So feel free to sip on a cup of tea as you share your insights and your experiences on maintaining internal balance. Over here in this part of the world, it's early evening, and I get the sense that we're all extending a very, very warm welcome to you once again to Down Under.
Thank you so much, Gabrielle, and it's really lovely to be able to just at the pop of a switch to reach my lovely friends in different parts of the world. And we were remembering how nice it was when I was back there in Australia a few years ago, and we all are very close, and the heart connection is really strong, and this we call this spiritual family, spiritual connection. So internal balance. On one end of the scale is when you feel really high, really excited, and really positive, and it carries you away. On the other end of the scale, you are in the dark side of the soul. There may be disillusionment, there may be depression, there may be despair, and it's a big continuum all the way from the deepest dark to the brightest light. And internal balancing does not mean that you chop off the bottom and the top of the scale and you stay somewhere in the middle. That is something that happens to people with mental health problems who receive psychotropic drugs because their high is unmanageable and their low is also unmanageable. So the medication just chops off the top and the bottom and leaves you somewhere in the middle, which is supposed to be a better place. And that's okay. But here we want to do something a little different. Internal balancing for me is connected with being able to span that bridge between the highest of the high and the lowest of the low, because then we have the full spectrum of what it means to be human. But what makes it difficult for people to handle the lows, basically? Nobody really minds the highs, but they definitely mind the lows. And what meditation practice gives us is an inner power to be able to stay in our state of internal balance, even while we are experiencing the highest of the high and the lowest of the low, because internal balance is a connection to what we might want to call the ground of being, or the essence of what it is to be a soul. And the soul is the point of life, the point of light that I am. And the characteristics of the soul in power is purity, peace, silence, stillness, love, inner power, and bliss. And this is the balanced state, but it's not halfway in between the high and the low. It's another dimension. And so when we're looking at internal balancing, we're not really looking at something like a seesaw with two sides. We're looking at a balancing that's much more complex than that. There ground of being or the state of inner equilibrium is on a different plane. The highs and the lows are connected with our human experience. And as many people have mentioned, we are a spiritual being having a human experience in the human world. And the nature of the human world is variations between the highest of the high and the lowest of the low. And when you go to the cinema, you watch movies, the cinema, the film will carry you through the spectrum of emotions through different images and stories. And so you experience them vicariously, but also in the reality of your life, in your relationships, in the workplace, in the community, watching the news, whatever. Your experiences take you to highs and lows, and sometimes it becomes too much and you cannot handle it. So what we're talking about in this session today is what you need and what you do and how you do to manage to handle the extremes of experiences, of emotions, so that you can be a full spectrum human being, but at the same time, you always remain in your essential self. You always are the soul in power, whether your experience is the highest of the high or the lowest of the low. It doesn't put you down into the abyss. And this is really why people don't like the lows. But the mechanism of consciousness and the nature of how we experience our human existence in our minds and through our sense perceptions and in our hearts is that whatever high you experience, you will also have a corresponding low. And there are many people who say, well, we want to have fun, we want to have a high, we want to enjoy, but we don't want to have the other side of things. And when they say that, it's because they do not understand the laws of spirituality. The laws of spirituality are fascinating, deep, and wonderful. And there are many of them. But the one that we're going to look at specifically in this session is that the nature of karma, you know the word karma, the nature of karma is to bring everything back to balance. And so that means that if you're going to have a big high, then that will have to be balanced by a deep low. And the problem for many people is, while you enjoy the highs and you can appreciate them, sometimes it gets out of hand, but you don't really mind about it because you like the high. But the difficulty is that it will be met by an equal and opposite low, which you definitely have a hard time handling, and which, generally speaking, people really don't like. So this practice that we are talking about here in this session is the practice of, in a way you can imagine it like someone with very, very long arms. So one arm can go to the highest of the high, the other arm can go to the lowest of the low, but where you are, the body that has the two arms remains always in the stage of equilibrium in the middle. And of course, in between your two arms, what do you find is your heart. And your heart is where you say you feel all your feelings. And the heart is also another word for the core of your being, which is the soul. And the soul is that extraordinary unit of consciousness that feels. And what you feel is what happens to you in response to perceptions. And in fact, the laws of spirituality also tell us that everything that we perceive that appears to be in the material world, all the events and people and situations and things and places, we experience all these in the mind, because the soul experiences what takes place on the outside of the body. Our impression is that we experience the material world in the material world, but actually the location of experience is in the mind. And this is why we have this expression, it's all in the mind, but then people don't really know the extent that it is all in the mind. But what that means is that we have power over handling our experiences, but people don't have power. This is the issue. Not having power means not being able to handle the experiences. And meditation is about acquiring or reacquiring the power to handle the full spectrum of experiences without being dominated or influenced by those experiences. So there are two key influences for a serious meditator. And one is the influence of myself. I am the one who influences me. And the second one is the influence of the Supreme Being, the higher power, God, the force, the source, the intelligence of the universe. And then there are other influences which usually influence us, the influence of circumstances, and we can also call that appearances, because we experience the circumstances, the people, the things, the places through our eyes and ears and our sense perception, our skin. But all of that is actually registered in the mind, and this is why we call it the appearances. The self is not particularly apparent. The self is very subtle, a tiny point of invisible, indiscernible light, but the self can be understood, comprehended. And then God, the Supreme Being, absolutely impossible to discern, to perceive through physical means, because neither the self is physical nor the Supreme Being is physical, but the appearances are physical. So in order to establish this kind of inner balancing, which is stable and steady, we need to really be aware and stay aware that all these performances that are going on in the material world need to be considered as appearances. Rather like how we relate to the cinema or the television. These are digital images that we engage with and that elicit emotions, and we enjoy those emotions, and we let ourselves go to horror movies and war movies and comedies and romances and all the different genres that there are, because we want to feel those feelings, but because we're not strong and we are weak spiritually, if that would happen in what we call reality, we wouldn't be able to handle it. And so we can handle it when it's on screen. And the soul needs to go to the highs and the lows. But if you can't handle it, then you have to have these tops and bottoms of experience chopped, and you remain like a kind of lobotomized patient. And who wants to live like that? So we want to live the full spectrum, but we have a problem with that. So what happens in meditation is the power in the soul gets restored. But another thing also happens, and that is that we have internalized a lot of things that we are not able to handle, and it takes the form of locked, blocked emotional pain, which is stuck deep down somewhere in the subconscious, and which drives our behavior and makes us fake, artificial, inauthentic, which makes us operate in a way that is in opposition to who we really are. And then in this state of being a fake and not real and out of touch with ourselves, and then we get hurled into these big highs and lows which we cannot handle, and then it creates a lot of confusion and distress. So this is the practical reality that we want to look at here. And we're going to do a few minutes of a meditation practice to just show you how you can orient yourself internally in a balanced state while all of this is going on externally. So let's just take a moment to become quiet and to turn the attention within. When the mind is focused inside, you become more aware of the self as a point of light. You can see and hear the external world, but your attention is focused within. You go to the core of your being, the heart, the soul, the light. From this inner positioning, you create a distance between yourself and your sense organs, your sense perception. Practice. I am alone on the inside of this body. I am on a different plane. I am the pure, peaceful, powerful, loving, and blissful being of light. And I experience the material world through my eyes, ears, skin, sense of smell, and even through the mind, I can experience atmosphere, the vibrations. I am connected to the material world through my body. And whatever is going on outside me, I register within in the mind. And it goes deep into my soul. All these experiences are memories. There are some memories that are traumatic. Locked with fear, alarm, anger, distress, we react. It gets out of control and it goes in as emotional pain, unresolved, sitting deep within, in sometimes a monstrous form. And it drives who I am and takes me away from who I am. Sitting in the place of the soul, deep within. I practice being who I am. And I invoke those locked and blocked feelings to come up so I can look at them as they are. Meditation does two things. One, I hold myself to who I am. And secondly, I invoke the old memories of pain, distress, feeling low, so that I can practice to handle it. Handle it means I feel feelings of self-doubt and it's okay. The feeling doesn't drop me into a deep negative state, but I feel self-doubt. I let it be what it is. It moves through me and it disappears because the reality is it's only a feeling, an old feeling from way back, which sometimes clouds my spirit and makes me think I doubt myself even now. But looking at how I feel now, I feel good. I feel sure. I know who I am. I am who I am. Self-doubt is an illusion, and I don't consider it real. I don't let it take me down. I stay in the height of who I am, and it fades away. So this is an example of how to work with a negative feeling when it comes up. And generally speaking, these negative feelings will not come up in meditation. It will very often come up in long meditations. If you do for several hours, it will really eventually bring it up. Or sometimes it will come up sort of unexpectedly. You will say to yourself, okay, now I'll have a meditation. And instead of a meditation, you have some sort of inner drama, which is all negative. And then you think you're having a bad meditation and you may struggle with it for a while. Sometimes this will happen in the very early morning meditation, if you have that practice of very early morning meditation, because in the very, very early morning when you just wake up, you're actually closely connected with your subconscious. And all these lows, because we couldn't handle the lows, they get locked in the subconscious and they operate as what we may call vices or negative emotions, and they keep us away from who we are. So to invoke these things through meditation is to have a look at them from a more empowered place, from a more neutral place, and realize that they are old stuff, old locked emotions, which really don't belong in your soul, in your heart, in your being. And this is the time when they can be dissipated and float away, because they're really not real in the sense of that's not who you are. That's something that happened that you couldn't handle, and so it got locked in. And we don't need that, because it drives behavior. It makes us fake, makes us artificial, makes us not true to ourselves. So we don't want that. Why would you want that? And so as you let it pass away, you return back to your power, because the presence of these things and the fact of not being able to handle them puts us in a mentality of not being in our power. And then you can't really function as you want to. So this process of meditation is a process of bringing us back to being in our power and being in that balance, so that when any time anything comes along, or even any ancient memory comes up, and your arm may go up to the positive or your other arm may go down to the negative, but you handle that emotion. You don't try to stop it or cut it off or deny it. If you're feeling distressed, it's very good to acknowledge, yes, I'm feeling distressed. The situation where I am distressed brought back old bad memories of a distressing situation that I couldn't handle from the past. And I don't know why this is coming up, but really, we do know why it's coming up. It's coming up because this replication of similar situations is an opportunity to handle the negative feeling. So handling it means it is happening, but it's not happening to me, or it is happening and it doesn't mean that I am not okay. I can manage this feeling that was provoked by this situation and bring myself to my equilibrium easily, naturally, and I can allow the hot flame of this negative feeling, I can let it just pass through me without disturbing me, without prompting me to react to it, without prompting me to do an action that I would otherwise regret later. And all of us have, like we call it, buttons, and when people know our buttons and they press their buttons, it's reminding me of a scene in the film called Back to the Future, where the hero was always provoked when somebody called him a coward or yellow. And whenever this statement was given, he immediately engaged and got into a confrontation and got himself into trouble. Because he wasn't able to handle, he wasn't able to neutralize that expression, because it came from some childhood trauma which was still there. And even in that film sequence, it showed it in multiple lifetimes. And so all of us have these buttons, these areas where we can be triggered and we don't have control over it. And this is a sign of not being in your power. So we need to know what our buttons are, because if the other people know and we don't know, then we are like victims, and other people can play us however they want. Why would we go for that? That doesn't seem good for our dignity or our self-respect. But I must understand what my buttons are. My buttons are where there is emotional trauma that is locked, and I get thrown off balance as soon as that button is pressed. So we need practice. And this is why sometimes we get the experience that we are surrounded by people who really know how to press our buttons, and they succeed every time, and it makes us feel really irritated and frustrated because we're not able to take control of it. But we need to take control of it. How do we take control of it? Is, first of all, we have to look at ourselves very carefully and observe our behavior through the day, through the month, through the years, and just really see what exactly it is that sets us off, and say to ourselves, okay, this is a button that I am handling with my ego, and that is ineffective. As soon as my button is pressed, other people can see it. I can't see it. That's a sign of ego. I can't see it. The other people can. They press the button. They play me like some sort of a toy, and I am powerless to neutralize their act of pressing the button. This is really to be disempowered. And meditation is all about getting that back, and especially asserting our position of the internally balanced being. So see what your buttons are. You have to really look at your own. The one I gave was an example. How does that work? You know, a man is supposed to be powerful, courageous, strong, a good fighter, wins, knows how to create money, knows how to control situations, and knows how to face challenges. But it can be that in childhood, when one is small and vulnerable and inexperienced, one became really afraid of some situation, and that fear got locked in. And whenever the person is provoked by this taunting, oh, this is just a coward, and then immediately come the reactions. So what does it look like? And you're in that situation, or whichever is your personal situation, you immediately not go into reaction, but rather than that, you go into proactive. Proactive means I know I am in my power. And that statement isn't provoking the damaged, traumatized, disempowered self, but is being met by the balanced inner powerful self who immediately asserts, I am the victorious one, I am the brave one, I will not engage in this provocative action. I let that feeling move through me like a flame. It will hurt, it will disturb, it will distress, but it will not take me over. I am in my power and I have the ability to make this shift, that instead of that provocation pushing me down into a vulnerable reactive state of being emotionally out of control, rather it takes me up and I go into my power. I hold myself in my power. I see exactly what the situation is, what I need to do. And in terms of the inner feeling, I handle it. I see this is the difference. And the scene passes, and I stay in my seat of self-respect. I stay in my higher power, my higher consciousness. I see things for what they are, not in terms of what they want to give me the illusion of. I'm not deluded. I remain free, independent, detached. And there is my stable state of inner balance. Now, these sorts of circumstances will be intensified when you meditate. What I mean by that is you may have a regular practice of meditation, morning, evening, through the day, whatever it is. You may sometimes practice to have longer periods of meditation, but what the meditation will do is almost like a conspiracy to attract towards you the things, people, and circumstances that press your buttons and that take you suddenly and unexpectedly by surprise into a state of weakness which corresponds to your locked subconscious emotion. And all hell breaks loose. So what do? You cover it up, you make yourself look good, you arrange your face and your body language to look like, oh, everything is fine, I'm not affected, I'm detached. But you're not. You're just holding yourself together as best as you can until you get a private moment where you can allow yourself to feel your feelings. But if you practice that for too long, you'll just stay inside your armor, and that deep locked emotion will get suppressed and repressed and pushed down, and you will become more and more artificial, more and more brittle. And sometimes you will not be able to control it, and you will overreact to a small provocation. And this is the sign that you're really ready to stop all that ego massage and really do the work to get free from this vulnerability, this not vulnerability in the positive sense, but this vulnerability in the sense that you can be easily broken. And so you make yourself harder and harder and harder, but more brittle. So vulnerable in that brittle sense. Otherwise, to be vulnerable in the positive sense is to feel your emotions, to express your emotions. And the power of that provocation is moving through you, and you can feel your emotions. You maybe even allow yourself to break down, but you do not react and do something that is an avoidance of feeling the emotion. This kind of vulnerability is actually very positive and comes as you acquire the skill and agility to be able to feel your feelings and to express your feelings, but always in a way that is genuine and real and the real you, and not a reactive, not against anyone, but just your being you, the real you, in your essence, in your truth. And you allow yourself to be seen by people because you are in your power, and you know that I am me, and this is me, and I'm influenced by me, and I'm influenced by God, and I'm a full spectrum person, and that is to be real and whole and complete. So I will stop there and just a few moments to feel that. And then I think, Gabrielle, you have some questions.
Yeah, there are a few questions coming through, Denise. I'm just loving what you're saying here about that internal balance as being about being able to span the bridge of the highest and the lowest, like, the deepest dark to the brightest light. Just very beautiful. You also spoke in such a soothing tone, and a few people commented on that in the chat box. Some lovely things coming through. I love the way you introduced us to the laws of spirituality, and in particular the nature of karma, and which is really just to bring us everything back into balance. And I find that a really positive way to look at karma, to bring everything back to balance. And I noted too your three things you talked about, how we're influenced by myself and by the supreme being, the divine, and of course there's the influence of circumstances as well. But meditation means that I hold myself to who I am, and I resolve feelings of old pains and distress. And that is the experience of meditation too. It does do that. It's a very beautiful process of recovery or healing. I think it comes from that Latin word meditere, doesn't it, or something like that anyway. But some beautiful points coming through here that I was appreciating and that have been signaled to me as well. The proactive, meaning I know I am in my power, and the balanced inner powerful self. So thank you for that, Denise. Can I pitch the first question to you?
Certainly.
Well, here we go. It's a long one, and I think it's one that many people, it'll resonate with many. So I realized that the mind is continuously analyzing and judging everything that is happening. It either feels good and at calm when things are in our favor, or feels sad when which further triggers more intense feelings like I'm not good enough, guilt and shame. All of this happening continuously and feel right now are more automatic throughout the day. Understanding the theory that I am the creator of my thoughts and hence my feelings is there, but to begin to practically see this happening seems to be challenging. I've been listening to knowledge for almost 6 years, spiritual knowledge, and I understand the concept, but I'm so taken aback when applying it in real life scenarios.
I think I would change the word, I understand that I am the creator of my thoughts and feelings, because that puts you into a weak position. I think it's better to start from a different vocabulary. Vocabulary is important because the words that we use are related to a load that comes with that word. Because if you say, I am the creator of my feelings, it means I am responsible. And that means that I'm supposed to control it, which means I have to suppress it. And then you get into the wrong space, as it were. So what is needed is to say, I feel my feelings. I feel upset. I feel happy. I feel confused. I feel we have to identify, what do I feel? Because feelings are generated by our response to circumstances. And a lot of the feelings which you mentioned, like guilt, shame, being not good enough, this is old traumas which got locked into the soul many, many years ago, usually in childhood, because as children, all of us are very sensitive and very open. And generally speaking, our culture, and that means it's global culture, is to be quite harsh towards children. And there's a great deal of harm in that sense that happens to children because the adult, the parent, the teacher, the religious leader looks at the child as an object. And no child is an object. A child is a being who is open and sensitive and innocent and pure. But the culture has put a kind of lens or filter where people just don't see that, and they just don't see themselves. So this is passed from generation to generation to generation. And the messages that go with that is, say to the child, you are this, that, and the other, which they're not. The child will internalize that. And then you are told, don't cry, boys don't cry, the girls don't fight. So this socialization that goes on throughout childhood sits there for the rest of your life and contaminates your life experience. And what this meditation is all about is to decontaminate, to take out these negative things and all of the negative behaviors that we did as a response to those, which all accumulates as something called karmic debt. And now we want to be free. So when you say, I am the creator of my feelings, it stops that process. So it's better to say something different. And I think it is good to say, I feel my feelings. And many people are completely disconnected with their feelings because they're so suppressed. And so you need to say, okay, what am I feeling right now? If you say, I'm feeling anger, anger is a vice, that is not allowed, therefore you suppress it. It doesn't do you any good. You say, I'm feeling anger. I feel angry. I feel the emotion of anger rising within me. And can I handle it or not? Well, if you're trying to suppress it and it needs to come up, it's going to get stronger and stronger and stronger until it bursts out. Like anything that you keep under pressure, it will explode. The more pressure you put, the bigger the explosion. But if you have a feeling, you say, okay, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling lost, I'm feeling needy, whatever it is, we have to be honest about what we feel. And then say to ourselves, okay, you're feeling like this, that's all right, and I can handle it. It will pass, because it comes through like a current of electricity coming through. But as is known, a good way to torture somebody is to apply an electric shock to them and give them pain. And so this is why there is emotional pain and you suppress it. So you can handle, how much pain can you handle? Emotional pain. If you're strong and stable in yourself, you have the power, and in meditation you acquire the power of tolerance, power of accommodation, power to face. All these powers are how we manage our feelings. And if you call it a vice, then you keep trying to suppress it. But if you call it a feeling, a negative emotion, it is there to give us an opportunity to practice letting it pass through and handling it and stay in your power while it is going through. This is much better. And this is what we have to practice now.
Yeah. Here's another one, Denise. When I first started meditating, I used to find so much peace and guidance. Now I find myself in an aging body with chronic pain every day. When I meditate, I find it hard to sit with the painful sensations. How can I meditate and live mindfully when instead of peace, I feel anxious and all I want is to do is escape? Is the physical pain related to past experiences? Am I clearing my karma through physical pain? Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Pain, physical pain, emotional pain, philosophical pain, psychological pain. There's every kind of pain. And the thing is, what nobody ever tells you, but which I will tell you, meditation means to invoke all of your unfinished business that is locked in your subconscious as a suppressed emotion or whatever, and it needs to come out. So when you start meditating, you feel blissful and peaceful and beautiful and all that, because it's always like that at the beginning. And you need to really feel that meditation is good, and to really feel that when you're in meditation, you're really in your internal, balanced, pure, peaceful state. But between the reality of that and where you are at the moment lie your karmic accounts, your emotional blockages, and all of these things. And so therefore, meditation causes them to come to the surface. And it can come to the surface of your body as physical pain and illness, or it can come to the surface of your mind as psychological and emotional pain and distress. And then your meditation enables you to draw power from the divine for the purpose of being applied to handle this emerging, outstanding karmic account or outstanding emotional blocked energy that needs to come out. So in your case, with chronic pain every day, what you need to do, I think, is not just hold yourself still and tight in meditation, but maybe meditation where you have some bodily movement, because your pain is locked in your body. And there are different things that you can do with the body to enable the pain to get out. And one thing that I used to have a lot of chronic pain, but it's gone away. But I also seen the dadis from the BKs, how they handle extreme pain, is they lie down and they practice to leave the body and rise up beyond the body and become bodiless, and really go into the stage. And you, in my experience with pain, you have to open yourself totally, which we might want to call the power of accommodation. Just have absolutely no resistance to the pain. Let it take you far beyond your capacity to endure it. Let it take you, and then it will leave you. And do this a few times. because when you resist it, you block it from coming out. And when you open yourself out, of course, you need a very good power of tolerance, but it's a matter of courage, and tell the pain, okay, take me. I'm here for you. Pain always has a lesson. It's kind of legacy that it has. So tell the pain, okay, you are my friend, you are my teacher. I'm listening to what you have to tell me. What are your lessons? I'm here. I'm not against you. And really develop a good relationship with your pain. And you will see, this is what I did. It really took me to another level by doing that. I had, I think, 30 years of chronic migraines, and now it's gone. But I had to go through that quite a few times, and okay, finished.
Thanks, Denise. There's a lot of very appreciative comments coming through. Here's one. It's so refreshing to hear that it's important to feel what you're feeling, to be honest, and let it pass through rather than put on a happy face, because meditation is supposed to make you feel calmer. And someone else is saying, that made me connect with some old emotions and work on the feeling it brings to me. Thank you, Denise. Here's another one. How do, we're saying here, a most grounded and beautiful presentation, well-rounded and so logical. I'm pleased to hear your talk and advice on when stuff comes up in meditation and how to deal with it. Do you have any more tips?
Well, you can ask me questions and tips will come out because, I think I don't really operate like pre-planned 1, 2, 3 points, but more like feel what's coming through, feel what needs to be said without necessarily understanding it, just feeling it. And I'm aware that there are many who are listening who I can't see, but yet we're connected on a feeling level. And so the right words must come out because, we are instruments, so we have to be open and let whatever comes through come through. And that has to be okay.
There's a couple of questions here from the same person, and it may bring out more tips, so to speak. How do, I'm just trying to read it here. How can I provide, or how can I get reassurance? How can we give ourselves reassurance rather than seeking reassurance from other people? And they're also asking, what does it mean to sit with the feelings? What do you do with them then? So it's not exactly related, but it's from the same person.
Yeah, no, it is related. I think the first thing is to sit with the feelings, to acknowledge and put a word on the feelings, because so often we're so conditioned that we're not allowed to have any vices and that would be bad and so on. So anytime a negative feeling comes up, you'll immediately put it down. This is a vice, this is bad, whatever it is. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, it's bad. So it's got to be suppressed. So sitting with the feelings means, okay, let yourself feel what you're feeling and sit with it, because then it will kind of tell you, okay, what I am is regret. What I am is despair. What I am is self-neglect. What I am is I give up. You need to get the word that corresponds to the feeling so that you can then realize that, yeah, you're feeling this. And where does it come from? And you'll be able to see different associations, because there's patterns, and the things that bring up the feelings correspond to the patterns of what created the feelings in the first place. And these negative feelings are what people call sins and vices and so on. This is a very religious language. And I think that when you have a religious language, it's all about right and wrong and good and not good, and you're an okay BK or you're a not okay BK, whatever that is. And actually, we need to remove ourselves from putting ourselves in that position of being judged. My spiritual practice is my business, not anybody else's business. Thank you. But we are also with people who are our level, with people who are doing the work at the level that we are doing with. And you will naturally find those people who are your level. There's lots of people in the BK world, but you will find your level of people. And that means they're working the way you're working, and they may have similar issues and similar aim and what they want and the intensity with which they want to do the work. You gravitate towards each other and reflect one another because you may carry the same wounds, and being a mirror for each other is really very good. So you feel your feelings, you name your feelings, and you allow yourself to have these feelings, because otherwise you disallow it. You deny yourself the right to feel what you feel in the name of it's bad and it's a vice. So that's not productive. It just makes it worse. No use. It's more religious, and I think we need to move away from being religious. Anyway, Baba says he comes to take out religion. So why do we have to be a religion if we're not having religions? It's self-contradictory. Spirit. What is the spirit? The spirit is the being whose experience is all the way from the highest of the high to the lowest of the low. And when the spirit is in power, you can handle it. And when the spirit is not in power, then it gets pushed down, and then you form the ego carapace to keep it down, and it becomes an artificial mask that you put in front of the world and say, this is me. And then you have all these ego clashes between these ego masks, and you don't really get anywhere. So we don't want that anymore. Now we want to operate at a completely different level. We want to operate at the level of I am me. This is me. I have a right to be me, and I am claiming my power to be. So your feelings are real, and either they put you into a low consciousness, which is normal. That's the sort of body conscious way of handling feelings, or they can, propel you to a higher consciousness, because as you process your feelings and handle your feelings, it pushes you to a higher stage. This is what you want. So really changing the language is important.
Denise, here's another one. Dear Denise, what are your thoughts with regards to how to deal with people in management who lack leadership skills, poor decision making, the inability to make courageous decisions or enforce sensible decisions, etc. And all of this places incredible stress on the team and leads to low morale, and can even place staff, people in potential physical danger. And this could be in paid employment or in charitable organisations, voluntary employment.
Yeah, this is a phenomenon that is global. It's a phenomenon that a lot of BKs experience within the BK organizational structure, and people are talking about it all the time, trying to fix it. And I've been thinking about it for a good long time, and thinking, all this is scaffolding. And when the building is ready, to do the internal work that doesn't require scaffolding. Scaffolding is for the external structure. But once you start to work with the inside of the building and really make it beautiful on the inside, well, you take the scaffolding down. And so all of these structures that we are having such a problem with is because the scaffolding needs to come down, the structure needs to come down. So instead of thinking, oh, the scaffolding doesn't look very nice and it doesn't know how to be a good building and it doesn't know how to make decisions and this and that. No, why you need that scaffolding? All that will collapse. You can see it. From the point of view of the external world, the COVID-19 has created a lot of closures of businesses. A lot of people are really scared because they're losing their jobs, they're losing their loved ones, they're losing all these security things. But these instruments of security actually give us the illusion of security. And so when they don't work and when they collapse, it's a message to us to say that we have been taking our feeling of security from things which are illusory, and we need to stop doing that. And as a BK, if we experience the management structure in that way, ask yourself, to what extent do I need the structure? I don't need the structure. I am here to meditate. Nothing to do with the structure or the management or what their decisions are, good or bad. It doesn't make any difference to me because I am a Raj Yogi and I have access to the Murli because it's all over the internet, so no problem. Like in the previous times, people could say, oh, we don't allow you to have access to the Murli, but that can't be there. What do we need? We need the Murli. We need to have remembrance of God, and we have a right to be who we are. So in terms of any charitable organization or any regular profit-making organization, whatever it is, you always find a victim-perpetrator situation. You always find there's exploitation, you're being used, you're in a weak position. There's an expression that I sometimes ask people, what do you prefer? Is it better to be a powerful soul in a weak position, or is it better to be a weak soul in a powerful position? And people always say, oh, well, obviously it's better to be a weak soul, a powerful soul in a weak position. But what you're getting all over the world is weak souls in powerful positions. And then the powerful souls in weak positions have to deal with the weak position. And it tells them, come into your power. So this is what is going on here. Just come into your power and be who you are, regardless of whether you are in a circumstance that favors you or not, because circumstances at the moment are weak and falling apart. Structures are weak and falling apart. So it's time for us to simplify our lives, to be essenceful, to be in our power and have faith that I can handle this. And we have to practice handling all the emotions, because even to put a question like this, that if the management is dysfunctional, then it creates this problem and that problem and the other problem, that's an emotion. When you are talking about that, it's an emotion of insecurity, it's an emotion of disapproval, it's an emotion of it's not how it should be. You want to call it to account. Okay, how do you call it to account? By being in your power. Then you can start calling it to account, which is not the same as complaining about it. Something like this is what you need to think about.
Denise, we've got the opportunity for one last question, and if there's a couple left, but I'm just doing them sequentially. What affirmation should I practice to heal the estrangement from my only son, who is 20 years old? He does not live with me and has completely cut me off. I do not have a loving relationship with his dad.
Well, the child is traumatized by the problem between his parents, probably since a long time. And I think the good thing would be to just really come into your love and be loving to the child, to be loving to the estranged dad. It doesn't have to be a war, because you come into your own power, and you come away from the normal society's view of how to treat people. And you come into a spiritual view of how to treat people. And the estranged dad, that's a role he's playing. I'm the estranged dad, and you're the estranged mom, and this is the estranged child. Okay, it's a circumstance of sorrow. And all you have to do is be loving and be independent of the reactions to the things that you normally react to. This is like a story, it's like a movie, and you can make a different movie. It doesn't cost you anything to just be loving. And in your meditation, in your mind, just be loving, and it will create a different dynamic.
Good. Thanks very much, Denise. It is time for us to wrap up the Q&A anyway, but we'd love to do this commentary, and we've decided that we'll be looking at playing one of your meditation commentaries that was on Soul Journey, the first series of commentaries that you created a long time ago. So we'll be playing a track from Soul Journey, and the track is called Soul Consciousness, and it's a meditation that, as I said, Denise created to take us into the experience of being a soul. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Raj Yoga meditation, it's a very easy way to meditate. We use the power of our thoughts to take us into an experience of our natural inequalities. So first of all, just sit comfortably, and in your mind, allow the words spoken on the commentary to wash over you. So we'll begin, and Peter's going to put up an image on the screen. If you want to keep your eyes open, you're welcome to do that, and just focus on that image with a soft gaze. But equally, if you wish to keep your eyes closed, that's no problem at all. Please go ahead. So here we go, our journey together into soul consciousness. Let's begin the meditation.
This is a meditation to take you into the experience of soul consciousness. To do meditation, you should sit comfortably, keeping the eyes open, the body relaxed, and you should follow these words with your mind, so that you're using the power of thought to take yourselves from body consciousness into the subtle state known as soul consciousness. First of all, I feel the energy throughout the body. And I use my thought to draw that energy away from the hands and the feet, upwards. And there is the feeling of turning within. picture the self in the eye of your mind as a being of light, deep inside, in the center of the forehead. I exist within this physical body, a spiritual being so tiny, so subtle, the tiniest spark of conscious light. This is I, the soul. I feel myself behind the eyes, looking out from the eyes. I am hearing through the ears. I am not this body of flesh and bones. This wonderful arrangement of chemicals and particles is not I, but my physical vehicle. I am not my senses. And as I turn within, you can feel this. I, the soul, am totally peaceful. I can feel vibrations of deep peace emanating from myself, and I go deeper into myself. A being of light, full of peace, and there is the feeling of being weightless, of being so different from the physical body that I can move away from it. I feel myself rising upwards, going beyond, detached. And in that stage of detachment, I experience that I am just pure consciousness. I am a mind, a thinking being. And the thoughts that are real and true to myself are beginning to flow. What is it like to be me? So peaceful, so light. Deep down within, there is natural love. A natural feeling of benevolence for all. The mind is filled with a total love for all souls, a feeling of brotherhood. And the vibrations of that love is spreading outwards. I, the soul, am naturally strong. There is energy there. There is clarity. The mind becomes steady, feeling the original qualities of the soul. And the soul feels blissful, content. I am a being with understanding, intellect. I have awareness, recognition of what it is to be. And there is the understanding that this is my true state, and all thoughts of this nature are right thoughts. I am a being who exists forever. There is the feeling of my own eternity, my immortality. I am an individual being. A pure, perfect, loveful, peaceful soul. This is the consciousness of the soul. And now gently, I allow myself to descend again into the body. And as I reconnect with this body, I am able to act through it from an attitude of understanding, and with the natural qualities flowing through, I can act in the consciousness of the soul. I can come into the body or go beyond the body. And now I return to the body. Om Shanti.
Yes, what a beautiful experience of soul consciousness. Such a beautiful space to be in. Just imagine a world where soul conscious, just completely filled with soul conscious beings. Denise, I wonder if there's anything you'd like to say or add about that commentary.
Well, even though it was done maybe nearly 45 years ago, it's still current, and it's still the essential practice that we are doing and must continue to do. Spiritual laws are like the laws of physics, they don't change, and spiritual practice is just about going to a higher and higher level, and when one level is finished, then leave it and go to the next level without looking back.
Look, thank you so much, Denise. Thank you for being a visionary, for being a seeker of truth, and also for being such a courageous pioneer, because your contribution to our world is magnificent. It's been a pleasure and an inspiration listening to you. And on behalf of all of the viewers, our thanks, our love, and our blessings to you.
Thank you, and you are in my heart. So it's been really lovely, and thank you so much for having me.
It's gorgeous, thank you. Now, to our viewers, Eternity Inc. has a full online range of books on self-empowerment and spirituality, always at not-for-profit prices. They have Soul Journey, created by Denise, and it's available as an immediate download, MP3, for only $6.95. And this MP3 meditation album contains 6 much-loved meditation commentaries by Denise. These have been re-released due to ongoing demand because they are original and deeply guided spiritual meditations. So be guided to an inner experience of the nature of yourself on a profound level and to a journey of connection with the Supreme Soul, the Divine. You can also get her book, Everyone Can Meditate. Again, it's an immediate download ebook, PDF, only $2.95. This is a really practical step-by-step guide to Raj Yoga meditation as taught by the Brahma Kumaris. And it's featuring 9 lessons in total, but just do 1 lesson a day to go on a journey to discover your innermost eternal self. So these items and much, much more are available now online at Eternity Inc., www.eternityinc.com.au. And if you'd like to learn Raja Yoga meditation online and free of charge, visit our website for something special near you. And the address is up there on the takeaway. Now look, finally, I'd like to tell you about our next episode of Open Your Eyes to the Universe. The intuitive visionary Carolyn Ward will join us on Youniverse next month on Saturday evening, the 25th of October at 6 p.m. And her topic is courage and optimism. Some of you will know, but not everyone will know, that Carolyn is an educator, a coach, a thinking partner, and author of 2 books, The 4 Faces of Woman, and then My Courage, Your Courage, and she has a 3rd book underway. Carolyn very naturally carries a deep understanding of transition and transformation, and her gift is holding spaces and revealing the unseen solutions and emerging pathways of transformation for individuals and groups. She co-led a social transformation project in Chile recently during the global financial crisis that used the power of courage to change the national conversation and the emotional landscape of the country. Her current project on her return to living in Australia is The Optimist Heart, highlighting the vitality, joy, and optimism that is available when we stop performing and start being. So join us next month, the 24th of October, 6 p.m. on Youniverse. And until then, take care, stay balanced, and Om Shanti.